welcome back. It's Sunday, so it's time to go through the 12-pound barrel. I was out of town last weekend and I was busy all week, so this time the barrel's been going for 2 weeks. It's not something I normally do because my grit's usually used up after a week, but I just didn't have time to get to it, so I figured I'd just let it go 2 weeks. And last time I did that, we didn't really notice much difference. So these have been going for 2 weeks this time. Looks about the same. Maybe a little bit thicker. All right, I see a bunch of our zebra jasper and the Bahia agates and some of the Botswanas. About the same there. Some Botswanas and some Bahia agates and the zebra jasper. A little bit of red jasper in there yet. And there's the last basket. Oh, I put some Mozambique agates out of my 3-pound barrel in there last week too, so there's some of those in there this week. All right, I'll go ahead and go through those and see what's ready to move on. And I'm thinking this week we might actually just lay the whole barrel out and we'll take a look at exactly what's all in the barrel. There's a lot in that 12-pound barrel. All right, so today I just wanted to take a quick look at everything that's in the 12-pound barrel so you can get a grasp of how much stuff is really in there. It would take forever for me to make a video of going through it all, so I've already gone through it, and all this stuff that's on the table is things that are going to stay in for another week. And then after this, we'll look at the stuff that we're pulling out this week. And we had pretty good clean out this week. I'm going to try to hand hold the camera because otherwise it's pretty hard to deal with. So hopefully it doesn't get too shaky. But we'll start over here. This is our biggest pile. These are all the Botswana agates that we have that aren't ready to move on this week. And a lot of them are looking pretty good. And some of them need some more time. Quite a bit more time. But we're just going to keep rolling them until we get rid of all the flaws that we think we can get rid of. And then we have some Mozambique agates, and these ones I'd been running for a while in a 3-pound barrel, and I needed the barrel for something else, so I think it was 2 weeks ago we threw them in the 12-pound barrel just to fill the space. And a lot of those ones are getting close, and then there's other ones that have a lot of time left, or I'm going to have to grind them or something. We'll see what happens. I don't have time to run the grinder today. And these are the Bahia agates that are still running. We pulled quite a few of the Bahia agates out this week, so there's not many of those left. I started with 5 pounds and that's all we've got left in the barrel. This is a little pile of miscellaneous stuff. I don't really know what, some of it I'd have to go through it a little closer to try to figure out what it was, and it's harder to tell when it's dry than when it's wet, but it's mostly some jaspers and stuff. And this is the pile of zebra jasper that's in the barrel. We pulled a few of them out this week. A lot of the zebra jasper I got was really, really thin, so it's starting to chip on the edges, so I want to take it out of here, and I'm not real happy with it, but it's just going to break up into nothing if I don't pull it out, so hopefully it turns out okay in the lotto tumbler when we do the next stages on it. And then this is some miscellaneous jasper. There's a piece of polychrome jasper there, and there's some desert jasper, and then some other things that I'm not 100% sure on them, but nothing too exciting. And then this is the pile of red jasper that we have in the tumbler right now. And there's quite a bit of that. And I think I've got just about 5 more pounds of that we're going to be rolling into the barrel as we make room. And then we've got this little pile here that we'll look a couple of them closer, but there's the geode and the thunder egg, and there's a piece of green adventurine, and I think the other one's a little piece of petrified wood, and the other ones I believe are chert. So that's a glimpse of how much stuff is actually in the 12-pound barrel every week. So there's quite a bit of stuff in there. There's a lot to go through. So I'll clear this stuff off the table, and we will get the other bucket over here, and we'll look at all the stuff that's moving on to the next stage this week, all the stuff we're pulling out. This is the bucket of stuff that's coming out this week, and we had a pretty good clean out. And some of it, all the flaws aren't gone, but I'm going to have no rock left if I try to get rid of all the flaws on some of them, and some of them look really, really nice. So we'll go ahead and take a look at some of these and see how they're looking. So we've got a lot of Bahia agates that came out this week. And like this one, you can see that big hole in it right there, but I really like the bands around that quartz pocket. And the backside looks, oh, it's got some bands on it also. And then there's a little hole right there, but I would have to tumble that or cut that off, and I don't really want to cut it off because there's a lot of cool pattern on it, and that rock would be pretty well wasted if I cut that little piece off. So with that quartz band in it, or that quartz pocket with all those bands, I like that. But that hole is just gonna take a long time to get rid of. So here's another Bahia agate. I really like that one. It's really cool. I've been working on this spot right here, and it's not perfect, but I don't want to make it any smaller because I like all the bands on it. Because this is kind of the side that has most of the interesting stuff. The other side's not bad, but this side is the one that we cut so we could see the inside. So that one's looking pretty good. Here's another Bahia agate. This one's got some pretty cool colors to it in the bands, and it's another one where it's got a big hole on the bottom, and it looks real cracked and fractured. You don't see a lot of the Bahias that look like that, but this one, I'll never get rid of that, or if I do, it'll be a teeny tiny little thing, and I really like this side's all perfect, and it looks really nice. So we're gonna go ahead and move it on. A little bit of banding you can see on that edge, so that one looks really good. Here's another Bahia. This one's got a lot of bands. It's got another hole in it on the top there, but I could probably try to grind that off, but I'd be grinding off a lot of those bands, and I really don't want to get rid of them. So we're just gonna, and then this one's got a quartz pocket in it also, and it's got some really cool eyes on this side. You can see it's got a pretty good flaw in it right there too, but those eyes are really cool. I like those. They got all the swirl, all the layers in the eye almost, I guess you would say. And then I like the quartz in there also. So that one's looking good. Another Bahia. You can see it's got some, you can't feel any of those, but it has some fractures in it. But it's looking pretty nice. Let's see, we've got a few more. This one's a little bit different looking Bahia. It's perfectly smooth, but you can see all the fractures that are in it. And it's kind of got a different color. I don't know if it has some iron staining in it or what, but this side's got a little bit of banding going on. There's a nice little spot right there. But it looks really nice. Little eye in it right there that's got, some of those eyes on these had holes in the middle of them. I don't know what causes that when they're forming or whatever, but I like the banding pattern on that, and it's just got a little bit different color to it. So we're going to go ahead and move that one on. And here's a little guy. It's quartz on this side, and you can see how it's domed because that quartz is softer and it wears out faster. And then it's got a nice layer of the Bahia agate on this side. Kind of got some eyes and stuff going on. It's a little bit smaller piece, but it's ready to go. I really like the way that they form with the quartz in them. You can kind of see some bands on the edge there. And they go all the way around the quartz pocket. And here's one more of the Bahias. It's got some cool bands on it. Nothing real exciting on that one, but it's all smoothed out. I guess there's some banding on that end and all the way down the edges. This one's another one. It's got that black spot right there is a hole, but it has really cool bands. It's another one. We cut this one in half because the outside didn't have a terrible lot of excitement going on. You can see some banding there, and there's a fracture going in there, but it's going to keep chipping off. But I really like this side. Got some eyes there with some nice banding around them. Those Bahias are just really cool. But this is the face that I really like, but it's got that hole in it, and I'd either have to grind that off or do something, and I'm just going to let it ride like it is. I'm happy with it. And here's one more. I think there's a couple more in there. We're not going to look at them all, though. This one's also got the quartz on it, and then there's a little bit of agate on the top of the quartz right there. But there's quartz all the way around it. And if I keep running it, I'd wear that agate off the top. And it's got the bands, the Bahia agate bands on the bottom, and a bunch of eyes that have holes in them. But I think it looks pretty cool the way it is, so we're going to move it on to the next stage. We're going to polish it. So we'll look at a few of the Botswanas here. This one's got some really cool bands on it. And it's got, I think they call them tubes when they have the holes like that. And sometimes with some of these agates you can see in them, they have more transparency. And you can see that it's like a tube that goes down inside of it. And this one has those. So those holes are going to go in there really deep. You really can't get rid of them. And you might not even want to, because it's just a little bit different form of an agate. Like that one right there. You can see right here how there's the hole on the top. And then you can see how deep it goes in there almost all the way through the rock. And then you can see it on these ones too. How those tubes kind of shoot into the agate. But I mean, it's pretty smooth, all smoothed out on the outside, and it's got the really cool bands on it. So it's ready to go to the next stage. Here's another Botswana. The old Botswana bands on it. It's got a big fracture, and as you can see, it goes deep into it most of the way around it. So it's never going to get gone, and there's more fractures over here. So it's all perfectly smooth though, so I really like the pattern on it. All right. Here's a really nice Botswana. I really like this one. It's got just really cool. I love those white bands on there. And it's got some eyes on the backside. It's all perfectly smooth. This one turned out really nice. I'm really happy with it. I think it's going to polish up real nice. I like how you can see all those layers and those bands, and you can almost see into them when you turn it the right direction. And it's got some real faint banding in the middle even, when you get it to the right angle. But that one looks really nice. Here's another Botswana. That one's really cool. All those bands all the way around it. And I think we got pretty well all the flaws out of this one. And it doesn't really, it might have a few little shallow fractures on it, but I don't want to make it any smaller, because it's a pretty little guy already. And then we do have one, well, there might be more than just this one, but here's this is a Mozambique agate. And there's not a lot going on with these. There is some banding in there, and maybe when we get them polished, I'll get a flashlight on it. I think you can see it a little bit better, but it's really faint. And this one does have the fracture on it right there, but you can see how deep it goes. So we're not going to get rid of it, but everything else on it is perfect. It looks real nice. Like I say, not a ton of excitement on it, but they're pretty cool. There's another Botswana. Has a pretty neat pattern going on. It has that fracture that you can see right down the middle. So I'd have to cut it, and there's no way I'd ever want to cut a rock that's got a cool pattern on it like that. It just looks awesome. With that blue or gray, whatever you call it, on the outside, and then the pink in the middle. That one's just really, really cool. It's got some nice bands. And what else do we have coming out this week? There's another Botswana. Another little guy with some really cool bands. Not too much excitement going on the other sides, but that's basically what you're after when you go for the Botswanas, is that banding pattern on it right there. There's one more Bahia agate here. This one, again, has the quartz in it, and it's just got a really crazy pattern on it. It has some bands going on, if it wants to focus for me again. and the eyes. Again, those eyes have holes in them, but kind of the nature of the beast in these. You could tumble them until you get rid of those holes, but then the eye's going to be basically gone. You won't have that cool pattern. So other than that, here's some of the zebra jasper. And I found out that from what I'm seeing so far, I don't think that zebra jasper is going to be one of my favorites. But I'd never tumbled it before, so we got some. And these ones are looking pretty decent, but like this one, you can see how thin it is. It's just paper thin, and you can see the edges chipping on it. So if I leave it in that 12-pound barrel, it's just going to get beat up and turned into nothing. Some of these are a little bit bigger, and there are some bigger ones in the barrel yet that I hope turn out real nice, but a lot of the chips that I got were pretty small. So, other than that, I guess we've got one more, this is another Mozambique agate, and you can kind of see the bands in this one. They'd really stick out if we put a flashlight on it. This side looks really nice, and again, it's a pretty thin one, and there's a pretty deep hole in it right there. And I've been tumbling this one for a long time working on those, but I'm never going to get rid of them because you can see how deep that hole is and how thin it is. I basically have to tumble it to nothing, and I'm really happy with this side. I mean, a guy could make a cabochon or something out of that, a necklace or who knows what. So it's turned out real nice. And we'll take a look at our thunder egg here, and it's looking about the same. You're starting to see some of those thunder eggs have some white in them. And you're kind of getting to a spot there where you almost see a little bit. I don't know if this one has a ton of white in it or not, but we're getting a lot more of the rhyolite. You can kind of see the white in it right here too. But we're just going to keep on rolling it, and maybe we'll just get down to a point where we just have the agate on the inside. That spot in the middle is kind of a hole, but it's just where it had broken off. So that's looking cool. And then our geode. Our geode has come a long ways. It's getting pretty small, but you're starting to see more of the quartz, and a big chunk of the host rock right there chipped out of it, so you can see how thick that host rock still is. I got a little bubble in it right now. There we go. But we're just going to keep, it's either solid or there's nothing in it yet. So it doesn't shake, it doesn't sound like there's any water getting in it yet or grit, but we're just going to keep rolling it and see what it turns into. It's quite a bit smaller than it was when we started. So other than that, we just have, there's some desert jasper in there. There's a couple more Botswanas and a couple more Bahia agates. And then I guess we could look at these. These are from a subscriber that sent me. These are a plume seam agate. And they had a material on the outside that wouldn't polish, and it was real pitty. And these have been in the tumbler for a long time. I'm betting this has been in there for going on 2 months. But you can see the agate bands in it, in the seam agate. And then there's one more of those in here that I'm pulling this week also. I don't know if we can get it. There we go. You can kind of see the agate in the seam. And it's all smooth on the outside now. So I'm assuming that's partially the agate material. There's a little bit of the porous stuff on the end right there, you can kind of see, and there's not a lot of excitement going on there, but it's an agate, so we're going to give it a polish and see what it looks like. But other than those, just some desert jasper in there and some red jasper and a few other odds and ends of things that I don't necessarily know what they are. There's some more zebra jasper in there too. So we're going to go ahead and get everything set back up, and we'll figure out how much room we have in the barrel, and I'll try to come up with something that we can put in there to fill it. We've got plenty of stuff. I just don't know what we want to use yet. So we'll be back in a sec. We've got everything back in the barrel, and the barrel's only about half full now. It ran for 2 weeks, so everything shrunk a little bit more, and we pulled quite a bit out. We're going to go ahead and get some water in there. May need to add some more, but I think we're going to use some more of our red jasper and then some more of our zebra jasper to fill the barrel this week. And a little bit of red. There we go. We're about 2/3. A little over 2/3 probably. The water is just below the level of the rocks. And we've got our 14 tablespoons of our 4670 silicon carbide. And we'll throw that back on the tumbler for another week, and we'll take a look at it next week. Thanks for watching.